And some of you may say I'm crazy for doing this, but I'm putting the Groza in next to the XM4, next to the XM4.
The Season 8 update might have some of the best balance changes we've seen in a while. We got a fairly sizable nerf to one of the strongest weapons in CODM's history without completely killing it, major buffs to 2 weapons making them borderline meta, and some of the weaker weapons are actually kinda okay now. The weapon I'm going to focus on today falls into the latter category, the Groza. I was actually planning on having it as my next in defense off, but I've decided to do the exact opposite, mainly because a certain someone said it is just as good as the XM4, and while yes, the Groza is a very solid assault rifle after the buff, to say that it is on par with one of, if not the most versatile assault rifle in the game, that is definitely a statement, alright? So in this video, I'm going to explain what the buff did for the Groza, what makes the weapon good, and most importantly, why it is just slightly behind some of the top assault rifles, aka the problem with the Groza. So, first things first, what changed with the Groza? Well, the Groza got a handful of very useful buffs. Its head and chest damage multipliers have been increased, meaning that with the combination of 1 headshot, 1 chest shot, and 1 arm shot, you can achieve a 3-tap in the initial damage phase for an extremely fast time to kill of 160 milliseconds. The more important buff is that to the 16.7-inch VDV reinforced barrel, which now increases your lower arm multiplier to match the upper arms. This means you can reliably 4-tap in the second damage phase as long as you can hit at least 2 arm shots, making this attachment pretty much mandatory now. Thanks to this buff, the Groza is actually pretty comparable to guns such as the XM4 and Type 19. In fact, all 3 weapons have the exact same time to kill, at 240 milliseconds, which isn't exceptionally fast in the current meta, but still decently competitive. But where the Groza stands out here is the range. This is because the Groza with the reinforced barrel now has a very impressive 4-tap range at 36 meters, much longer than the other 2 assault rifles. The Type 19 does have the option to mega stack range, which will give you a very similar 4-tap range, but the Groza still has some advantages here. The first one is the most obvious one. When you build the Type 19 for maximum range, you now have to deal with a slow ADS time of 305 milliseconds, forcing you to take on a more passive playstyle. The Groza, while maintaining the same ranges, has a much faster ADS time of 230 milliseconds. This is pretty much identical to the XM4 and is on par with a lot of the SMGs, which allows you to play somewhat aggressively with this weapon, so even though your time to kill is not the fastest, you can partially mitigate this by aiming in faster, assuming the enemy isn't fully aimed in either. The Groza also has the advantage in hipfire accuracy. Now the XM4 is a weapon with very few flaws, but one of them is the hipfire spread, which is actually one of the worst in the assault rifle category. So you're forced to rely on the fast ADS time in aggressive encounters, but that can still screw you over at times, especially if the enemy decides to bum rush you up close. The Groza doesn't have this problem as its hipfire spread is standard for assault rifles. This also has the added effect of having a much better mid-ADS accuracy, effectively improving your handling even further. Magazine capacity is pretty standard for assault rifles at 50, identical to the XM4. But unlike the XM4, the Groza has a way faster reload time, with its tactical reload being less than a second, giving you much less downtime compared to most assault rifles. And yes, the XM4 is capable of achieving a very similar effect with the 45 round fast mag, but that penalizes your ADS time, which completely removes one of its benefits of fast handling. While the Groza can absolutely make that sacrifice as its ADS time is still incredibly fast. The last upside of the Groza is base iron sights. The base iron sights of the XM4 can be pretty obstructive as the rear sight is ring-shaped and takes up quite a bit of screen space, so it is pretty easy to lose your target in them, which will force some players to use an optic, wasting an attachment slot. The Groza's base iron sights are much better in comparison, as the rear sight hardly obstructs your view, and it has the needle-shaped front sight, much like the Grau 556 with the Archangel barrel, so optics are completely unnecessary here. If I just left it off here, that would have made for a pretty good in defense of video. In fact, I initially intended for this video to be just that, which is why it seems that I'm giving this weapon a lot of praise. And rightfully so, since the Groza is genuinely a good weapon. But unfortunately, I was hit with the
change of plans. Ignore your original objective.
So let's talk about why the Groza is not on par with the XM4 by explaining what it can't do. The first thing that the Groza does not have is headshot effectiveness. The XM4 has the ability to 3-tap with one headshot and one shot anywhere above the legs for an incredibly fast time to kill of 160 milliseconds, which can be a lifesaver in tricky situations. The Groza is much less consistent as you also require a chest shot in the mix, which is not as easy to achieve since the arms block the chest. You also can't hit the stomach as landing just a single lower body shot means that you can no longer 3-tap. Some of you guys in my Peacekeeper video said that this potential does not matter at all since you aren't landing headshots consistently, so allow me to bring up a point that I really should have in that video but unfortunately forgot to. The thing about the XM4 and other weapons with similar time to kill is that in this current meta, these guns are noticeably behind some of the other meta flex ARs, which puts them at a sizable disadvantage. The XM4 can partially make up for this if you can land just one headshot, which will save you more times than you'd think. The Groza can't do this. So sure, the chances are low, but would you rather take a weapon with the same time to kill without that potential? The other thing that the Groza does not have is recoil. One of the best parts about the XM4 is the recoil pattern because it's... You know what? No, I'm not repeating myself. I've already said this exact line like 3 times in a row, so let me just... It's literally straight vertical with no horizontal kick, so once you find that exact speed you need to pull straight down, you can be dangerously accurate at range, especially on the first 15 shots. Now the Groza's recoil isn't quite as good. Similar to the Peacekeeper, it has a tendency to veer left and right, even with recoil attachments. So while the recoil is not awful by any means, you aren't quite as precise, so you can't take the same ranges as effectively despite having better damage range. The recoil also has an additional side effect of forcing you to use a Black Ops 4 grip for recoil reduction, which hogs an attachment slot. So while the XM4 has the option for near SMG sprint speed or decent strafe speed, the Groza is stuck with neither of these. Now, I have something to clarify, because if I don't explicitly say it, some of you guys will go absolutely feral in the comments. The Groza is a very good weapon. Statistically speaking, it is a decent side grade to the XM4 that trades headshot efficiency, recoil and mobility for a longer 4-tap range, better hipfire spread and faster reloads. But just like the other XM4 side grades, the advantages of the XM4 are generally more useful than the Grozas, so overall, the XM4 is still the better weapon. However, if you don't have any good blueprints for the XM4 and can't stand the base iron sights, the Groza is arguably the best pick as the poor man's XM4. When it comes to building the Groza, there is really only one viable build. Start with the 16.7-inch VDV reinforced barrel. This is the mandatory attachment as it massively improves our 4-tap range. Agency suppressor for concealment, Black Ops 4 grip for the reduction in horizontal recoil, VDV 50 round fastback for the largest mag size and faster reloads, and the firm grip tape for faster ADS time and reduced hit flinch. Alternatively, you can use the Spetsnaz 50 round drum, which will give you even faster ADS time, but you do lose the faster reload speed. And that covers everything there is to know about the Groza. Like I said earlier, this is actually one of the better assault rifles. That's just a step below the current meta options, and if not for appearing in a single top weapons list, and some of you lot gassing it up, I would have made a completely different video. The buff it received this season is very much welcome, as it went from an assault rifle that is only good for strafe speed and nothing else, to an off-meta pick that's almost as good as one of the best assault rifles in the game. It's not all the way up there, but that's okay, as that means you can still compete fairly well. And in all honesty, this gun is better than the Peacekeeper. But that's just my experience from using the weapon. So what do you guys think about the Groza? Do you agree that it is a decent off-meta pick, or do you think that it is a top tier option? Be sure to let me know in the comments. And if you found the video helpful, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe. But until then, I'll be seeing you in the next one. Bye bye.